For most of human history, the sentence, "we met, we dated, and then we decided to get married," would have sounded incomplete. People would ask, "Who are your families? Can this household survive winter? Does anyone owe anyone grain, cattle, labor, land, or protection?" And very practically, who is going to take responsibility if a child is born? That is the part we often miss. Pairing up was never only about two people liking each other. It was about trust in a world without dating apps, cheap travel, background checks, DNA tests, modern welfare systems, or even reliable paperwork. A partner was not just a romantic choice. A partner connected families, property, work, children, inheritance, reputation, and villages. A young man might not begin with a love confession. He might begin by proving that he could work. In a boring way. Carrying wood, helping with animals, showing up during harvest, not disappearing when the weather was bad. If he was lazy, people noticed. If he drank too much, people noticed. If his family had a long argument with another family over a strip of land, people noticed that too. In small communities, privacy was thin. Your aunt knew who you spoke to near the well. Your neighbor knew whose cart stopped outside whose house. Someone saw you at the market. Someone saw you at church. Someone heard your mother mention a name. This sounds suffocating, and often it was. But it also meant that choosing a partner was supported by a local information system. Gossip, memory, reputation, and family networks. No profile photo, no bio, just everyone quietly keeping score. Anthropologists usually treat marriage as a social institution, not just a ceremony. The Human Relations Area Files at Yale describes it as a socially approved sexual and economic union with rights and obligations. That dry definition explains why old courtship could be so controlled. A marriage created duties. Duties need witnesses. In one cross-cultural sample, only about a third of societies were coded as giving people full individual choice in marriage. In many others, parents or elders had some serious role, arranging, approving, negotiating, or narrowing the field. That does not mean every arranged marriage was forced. It also does not mean everyone was happy about it. The choice often sat on a spectrum. Most real life lived somewhere in between. The phrase arranged marriage can make modern ears imagine a grim room and two people with no voice at all. Sometimes coercion did happen, and in some places it still does. But arrangement also included introductions, family screening, matchmakers, and negotiations where a person might be able to refuse. A mother might know which household had a violent son. An uncle might know which family was drowning in debt. A matchmaker might carry information between families that could not speak openly without causing embarrassment. A matchmaker's job was not magic. It was admin with social consequences. Who is available? Who is from the right family? Who is too closely related? Who has land? Who has a bad reputation that people politely do not say out loud at dinner? A rejected proposal could disappear as a quiet, "not suitable," before anyone bought fabric for a wedding. Rules about who could marry whom were often as important as attraction. Almost every society has some kind of incest taboo, usually forbidding marriage to close relatives. Many societies extended those rules to clans, lineages, villages, or spiritual relations. In other places, certain cousin marriages were allowed or even preferred, not because people had never thought about biology, but because marriage could keep property, obligations, and alliances inside a known network. Fine, but this is where it gets messy fast. Take land. If a daughter married far away, land might move out of one family's control, or her labor might be lost to another household. If a son married someone from a related family, property could stay near the same kin group. These choices were not romantic, but they were not random either. They were a way of managing risk when land, animals, and labor were the pension plan, the insurance policy, and the emergency fund all at once. Money and goods mattered a lot. Cross-cultural research suggests that in many known societies, marriage involved a substantial transaction. bridewealth, bride service, dowry, or an exchange of gifts. Bridewealth meant goods or money moving from the groom's side to the bride's family. Bride service meant the groom worked for the bride's family, sometimes before or after marriage. Dowry usually meant property or goods moving from the bride's family toward the bride, the groom, or the new couple. A goat, a field, a chest of linen, a few coins, months of labor. These things could decide whether a marriage happened. That sounds cold if you picture love as the only correct reason to marry. But in many older economies, a household was a production unit. Two people were not just sharing feelings. They were planting, cooking, repairing tools, raising children, carrying water, caring for elders, and trying not to starve in a bad year. That sounds minor, but it matters. Of course, people still flirted. They sang, danced, stared too long, found excuses to stand near each other, passed letters, gave small gifts, and noticed faces. A village dance could be a marriage market with music. A harvest gathering could be a place to watch who worked hard and who only looked busy when parents were nearby. A church festival, a seasonal fair, a water source, a spinning room, a marketplace. These were not dating apps, but they created contact. The difference was that contact was usually watched. In many communities, courtship happened in the house, on the porch, at public events, or under some form of supervision. A young man might call on a woman while her family stayed nearby. In parts of Europe and colonial North America, there were even customs like supervised night visiting, or bundling, where a courting couple might share a bed while separated by clothing, boards, or strict rules. It sounds bizarre now. At the time, in cold houses with little private space, people found practical arrangements. Not always neat ones. Public approval could also be legal. In medieval and early modern Christian Europe, marriage bans were announced before a wedding so that anyone who knew an obstacle could speak up. Maybe one person was already married, too closely related, or not free to marry. Before centralized records were easy to check, a public announcement was a kind of human database. The village was the verification system. Awkward, yes, but it caught problems that a private romance might hide. Then, cities changed the game. When young people left villages for factories, offices, schools, or service work, family control became weaker. A person could meet strangers. Wages gave some people more independence from parents. Boarding houses, dance halls, cafes, cinemas, trains, bicycles, and later cars created new spaces where couples could spend time together without the whole kin group watching from a chair in the corner. The word date itself became tied to a modern world of money and leisure. Instead of courtship happening mainly inside the home, a couple might go out to a soda fountain, a dance, a movie, a restaurant, a drive. More freedom, yes, but also more pressure to perform. Clothes mattered. Spending money mattered. Popularity mattered. Open a dating app, and the family is mostly gone from the screen. No uncle checks the household reputation. No neighbor whispers that someone is unreliable. Instead, you get photos, prompts, location, age, maybe a job title, maybe a joke about coffee, and a little blue check if the platform verifies identity. We moved from kinship screening to interface screening, but we did not remove matchmaking. We outsourced it. Algorithms now do part of what parents, elders, matchmakers, priests, neighbors, and gossip once did. They sort, filter, rank, hide, recommend, and create the feeling that some people are available while others barely exist. The old question was, which family will accept this match? The new question might be, why did the app show me these people and not those people? Different tool. Same old anxiety about choice. Romantic love became much more important in modern marriage ideals, especially as people expected marriage to provide emotional intimacy, personal happiness, and companionship. That was a huge shift. Older marriages could contain love, tenderness, loyalty, and deep friendship. They could also contain pressure, inequality, and very little freedom, especially for women and younger people. We should not turn the past into a costume drama with candles and wise grandparents. A lot of it was harsh. Still, the old systems were not simply stupid. They solved old problems. How do you know someone is safe? How do you connect households? How do you protect children? How do you prevent a secret marriage from damaging inheritance? Sometimes the answers were unfair. Sometimes they were practical. Often they were both. A modern person may think, I would never let my parents choose. Fair enough. But modern choice has its own machinery. Profiles, messages, read receipts, screenshots, ghosting, background searches, friend group approval, location filters, income guesses, and the tiny humiliation of typing a good first message and getting nothing back. We gained freedom and then built new rituals around it. The rituals just look like Wi-Fi and thumb movement now. Maybe the biggest change is not that people used to marry without love and now marry with love. That is too simple. People have always had feelings. The bigger change is who gets to define a good match. For a long time, the answer was family, property, community, religion, and survival. Now, at least in many places, the answer is supposed to be the individual. Your preference, your chemistry, your life plan, your swipe. And that is why old courtship can feel so alien. It reminds us that love has never floated above society. It has always had neighbors, rules, money, doors, witnesses, rumors, and practical problems standing around it. The heart may choose, but it never chooses in an empty room.
Thanks for watching! If you enjoyed the video, please like, subscribe, and leave a comment below. See you in the next one!